I'm Josh Finn from J&H Aerospace, and this is the cat's Meow. This is our F1N kit, indoor hand-launched glider, or you can, since you've got this cool grippy grip back here, you can use it for AMA Unlimited Catapult glider. What you're going to see here is the build video for this aircraft, and I want to note a few things. The build video is for this aircraft as I originally built it. We made some changes since then. Those are good changes. We had some materials availability problems, and that actually caused us to find some better materials. So what you have are Grotner vector board flaps on this airplane. So what that means for you is you need to note a couple of changes in the parts list as I outline it when we build this out, and also those changes are going to extend how you build the aircraft. So in the video you're going to see mention of me attaching these flaps with U-Hoop. You don't need U-Hoop with these flaps. These flaps are CA safe, so you want to CA them on. That makes them much stronger in their bond to the wing as far as their stiffness. Also, that means since you cannot sand this foam because it does not sand real well, we had to make the rudder of different thickness vector board. So when I go through the parts list and whatnot, you'll see the rudder being part of the sheet that the wing flaps are attached to. That is not the case anymore. Your vector board fin is made, the rudder is made from slightly thinner material, so that you can save some weight back in the tail section. Last thing is, in some of the videos as I'm starting to trim it, you will see some carbon fiber strips across here. Ignore that; those were necessary with the old foam because it wasn't stiff enough. This foam, however, is stiff enough, and so we don't need any of that. So, with all of that out of the way, with all that information provided to you, and the fact that this airplane is now a very nice indoor hand launch model, enjoy the build, and we hope to see you at the flying meets and whatnot, flying hand-launched glider. It'd be good to have some more people flying it. See y'all later.
Yeah, what do you do?
Let's proceed with looking at what's in the kit here. So once you open up your kit, slide everything out. Be aware there's some kind of fragile contents and a few things you're probably not used to, like these carbon fiber strips. So leave that's everything out of it. So first thing you'll notice is you've got some carbon fiber strips. They're used for reinforcing your fuselage. Rubber band for your catapult. This is your catapult handle. You'll have a set of fuselage parts. Those are 1/8 balsa, some 1/32 balsa for your tail surfaces. You have 1/16 balsa for your, these are your wingtips and your pylon. We'll come back to this item. These are your wing leading edges. You'll notice this part missing out. That was an edit I made. You won't have that on yours. Dihedral gauges, and nose weight, by the way. Oh, and this piece of foam. And handle this carefully. This is Durabatics foam. It's very, very thin. And this is your wing flaps. So, with that, let's get started with the build. Okay, so what we're going to start out with is we're going to build out the wing. Carefully set your flaps off to the side. So, we're going to build it out of these main components. So we'll go ahead and, actually I can just snap these out of here. And we'll pop. Yeah, that one wants to hang up a little bit. And pop those out. Now, one thing with these, you're going to have these little burrs. You are going to have to take those off. The reason being, those are on mating surfaces, and they will interfere with getting good glue joints. The ones on the curved leading edge are optional because you're going to sand that leading edge eventually anyway. Put these along here, look for anything there. Same thing here. And here we'll deal with the leading edge later. And then we'll pop these wingtips out. You can hear my wife is building along with me here. She's going to build one of these as well. Save your pylons for later on. So, let's see here. Let me take that off of there. And now all you have to do is assemble each of your wings. And notice this is 1/16, also everything else is 3/32. And that's going to come in very important in just a minute here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to CA this together. You can use Duco if you're looking for really lightweight. I am trying to build as quickly as possible, so there's that. And so we'll join these. And there you go. Now, this is your wingtip. You're going to fasten this in, and here's where it gets important. What I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this in a particular way that's very, very important. Since this is thinner, hold this down flat against the table and glue this in. Now, at this point this is assembled, but notice there is a ledge here. So when you come over here, I'm going to assemble the other wing off camera, but there's something very important you want to pay attention to. You want to assemble it as a mirror image of this one, so that now, when I assemble this in, this ledge over here matches this one. Because if I were to flip it over, now I've got two, this is the left wing, because this is the bottom, this is going to become the bottom surface of the wing. What we're going to do is, once we're done with all of this, we're going to lay our flap in, and we're going to sand the profile in of the bottom surface of the wing, taper this in, then we're going to flip it over, and we're going to carve the leading edge. So, with that mentioned, I'm going to assemble this other wing leading edge assembly off camera, and then we'll come back. Okay, so we have assembled these two leading edge assemblies, and when you come across here, this is smooth. This is the top surface of your wing. So what I'm going to show you is the finishing procedure on one of these for the lower surface, and then we'll come back after a little bit. So the first thing is we want to fair all of this in together. So I'm going to come in here with a razor plane, and I'm going to remove the material that kind of created that ledge there. Also, I'm going to come out here, and I'm going to start feathering this in, because what I want is a gradual taper. It comes all the way out here to this wingtip. And we can go down to about 1/32 of an inch at the tips here, which is about where we are. Maybe take a little more material off here, maybe. There we go. And now this is a fairly smooth taper. Now, the flaps are very thin, and they're going to be mounting flush against the top surface here. So we're going to feather this down to about that thickness, about 1/32 of an inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring my razor plane in here. I'm going to start doing that. Those of you who have built our protege kits are familiar with this procedure, because this is the same thing that we do with those. And I'm just coming in here looking at regular intervals to see kind of what's going on. I don't want to sand too, yeah, we're about there. Because remember, we've already tapered this down in thickness. And that gets us almost there. I'm going to make one more pass out to right here. it wasn't perfect. But now I can come in with sandpaper and I can just remove all the roughness. I have been using this sand carbon fiber and it's staining the wood sometimes. You want to be real careful. I'm just sanding. I'm not even pressing down. I'm just rubbing I'm sliding the sandpaper across here. And all I'm doing is I'm not sanding any of the front here because I want that left alone. I'm just sanding the back. And we're not even going to touch the leading edge until after we've attached the flaps, and you'll understand why in a minute. Well, actually, I'll mention it. It's because you want this to lay flat, and when we bevel the leading edge, you've got less surface to stabilize this to hold it flat. Anyway, what you're going to do now is you're going to take your other wing, you're going to flip it over, and make sure it's oriented the same here, not like this, and we're going to do the same procedure on it. We'll come back. Oh, I'm sorry, that was off screen. There we go, like that. We're going to come back after we've done that one, and then we'll continue. Okay, so we have finished sanding both of these wing panels, the leading edge assemblies. So now get your flaps out. Now you'll notice mine kind of clipped the corner off here. So this is a prototype set. Hope's got it correct. But anyway, just check yours for that. You should not have that problem. And so all we're doing is we're gently cutting where the little laser notches are. The rest of it should come free. Maybe. And be careful, this is fairly thin foam. So that's one panel. Pop the other one out. Be careful of your rudder there. I guess you could say it was a rudder tab, sort of. So set all that off to the side. Okay, so we're going to start fitting this in. And I already fitted this off camera. And it doesn't show up real well here, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom in for you real quick so you can see exactly what's going on. So there's a gap right around here. I'll pull you a little closer. Yeah. So let me turn this around. And don't do what I just did. I almost bent the foam. So you can see there's a gap right here. Now, if I lift this tip up, I can slide this in, and this part here is fine. You don't want any gaps on this, because that will cause you some problems. So what I'm going to do, if you notice that forms a little bit of a gap here, that's okay. What I'm going to do is, with that slid in place like that, I'm going to take this razor blade and I'm just going to use the wing leading edge as a guide. I'm going to just ride along here. I'm going to take that little piece off. And now, I'll slide this back in. I get an almost perfect fit. Just a little bit unhappy there. Maybe just a little bit. Yep. So we'll try one more pass at that. Now, there we go. Fits perfectly. So let me zoom you back out. Wrong way. There we go. So what I'm going to do at this point, I'm going to turn this back around, and I'm going to put glue on this wing flap. So I'm going to use the Yoo-hoo pour again. And so I'm going to just run a very, very thin bead of this along the leading edge of the wing. So you want a visible bead all the way along here. You don't want to get any gaps in it or what have you. Because you do want a solid bond. This is a glue that dries somewhat flexible, and so you want all the meat to that bond that you can get. And of course, if you're using foam safe CA, there are a few other techniques you can apply to this, as far as doing it in segments or wicking the glue in there or what have you. But for this glue, can't really get away with that. And now, with this leading edge assembly flat on the table, I'm going to lay this down in here. Try to avoid sliding it up to the wing, as then you'll smear glue all around. And we're just going to lay this down, and so we want it pressed up flat against the table, everything pressed flat up against the table so we get a flat join. This is flush up against the top surface of the wing. So I can feel a little bit of a ledge here. That's okay, because this is the bottom of the wing. I want the top to be what is smooth. And so, there we go. Repeat for the other wing. It's going to be in that orientation. And we'll come back when it's done. So what you're going to do is flip your wing panels right side up. Like so. And now, I take a razor plane. And this is where we're going to copy the Russian airfoil, just because I've tested it a little bit, and it seems to be kind of the optimum solution to this problem. So all we are going to do is we're just going to carve a bevel in the leading edge of the wing. We're going to sand it, and we're going to leave it. So you can make a mark about half an inch back, taper it down to like a 1/4 inch here, run around, to know where to put your high point. But I'm going to freehand it because that's what I always do. Oof, that was graceful. And don't bevel too far into the wingtip out there. And just hit that with sandpaper to bring it on down to thickness. And that was real graceful. And we're going to bring this down almost to a sharp point at the leading edge. Still need a little bit right here. And one more pass. And so now you've got a fairly sharp edge around here. And so all we're doing is we're going to sand this. You're going to sand that flat in there all the way around. Unless you've gouged any of the rest of the wing, this is the only sanding you will do to the top of the wing. And just sand that all the way around there. Maybe make one light pass around here to remove any laser burrs, and you're done. So we'll do that on the other wing, and then we'll come on back. And before we set the dihedral, what you're going to want to do is rub these against the edge of the table like so. Rub your flaps. And we're trying to induce a little bit of camber into the wing. And so you end up with that. You see it flops about quite a bit in flight, which is kind of what you want. And we'll do the same thing on the other wing. And we want these to be roughly equal on this. Just set them together. Yep, they're about the same. Okay, so now we're going to come in here, we're going to sand these wings for dihedral. So we're just beveling it like that. And so now, I'm pressing so the flaps are forced flat. And check this fit. It looks about right. So we're going to pull out our dihedral gauges. And there's two ways to do this. One is to angle each panel up. The other is, so that's where you would set these like so. I'm going to cheat. I'm going to do it this way, where I'm going to glue them together. And now, I'm going to weigh one of my wings down. Making sure I'm weighing it down on the front here, because remember these leading edges curve up in the back. And now we will put some CA on this other panel. Don't go overboard, but make sure this is a well glued joint, because particularly if you're flying this as an F1N, you're putting it under quite a bit of stress. If you're catapult launching it, it's much lower stress values. There we go. Never mind my wife over next door gluing herself to her wax paper. Wow, I should edit that out of the video, but I'm not going to. Anyway,
that's because mine, we got the bloopers in.
Mine looks great. I don't know about hers. I'm sorry, I should be nicer than that, but that would be boring. Sand a flat down here. And that'll be for your for mounting your pylon, and you only need it in the forward section here. So like that. Contain yourself for the video. And there we go. Looks like that ought to work fairly well. These are a bit on the flexy side, and that's okay. Main thing is you build the rest of the airplane light to accommodate them. There you go. So now we'll proceed on to the next step. Okay, so Hope is working on dihedral in the background. So these are your fuselage pieces. Hopefully out of fairly light wood. Mine's a little on the heavy side, but it is what it is. I'll crack that out of there. And you can sand off the burrs top and bottom. maintain the orientation of this piece, and you'll understand why in a minute. So, remember that was up and down. We're going to slide this in here and we're going to glue it. If you just slide it right in there, it'll get you the correct angle and everything. And there we go. Mine did not give me the correct angle, but that's because this piece of wood decided to de-stress a little bit. That's okay. Anyway, after that, you can come in with your razor plane. And what we're going to do is we're going to taper this down to get rid of a little bit of excess weight. I'm sorry, I'm not even showing that on camera. Another thing that you can do is a little bit fat at the back. So flip her over. So here's where your catapult hook is. And we're going to taper down the thickness of the back of the fuselage. And you can take this down pretty thin back here. And so, like that. Now, next step is that you're going to take these carbon strips. You'll start up here. You don't have to start all the way at the nose, because we made it fairly beefy. But you're going to adhere this all the way down, preferably with something like cement. And this will take a while to dry. That actually won't take super long, but so what I'm doing is I'm just laying this down on here. You'll notice it doesn't go all the way to the back, and that's okay. It doesn't need to. I'm putting down a fair bit of excess and making up for it by coming along here and I'm wiping off that excess as I glue this down. And so there's carbon on the top, and we're going to put some on the bottom. And again, we'll start a little ways back and put the way on back here. That made no sense, but it sounded good at the time. The main thing is we're trying to just get rid of all the excess glue in here. Because weight is definitely of the essence, especially with the really thin flaps that we're using. Alright, and we'll be right back. Okay, so we've got that part of the fuselage done, and we'll pop the pylon loose. And so you're just going to glue these together, laminate them. I'm going to attempt to use Duco here, or Signet. Use those interchangeably, because they're about the same thing. And you can sand the leading and trailing edge of it around if you want to. You don't really have to. These are flying slow enough that it doesn't really matter. But it may make you feel better about your airplane, and if you feel better about your airplane, you'll usually fly better. So. Now, there is a thicker side and a thinner side. The thicker side goes up front to give you positive incidence in the wing. So take some CA glue. And again, the thicker side goes forward. You want to make sure that pylon is firmly mounted on there, so come back and kind of get yourself some glue fillets going on here. And there you go. Looks like a submarine, right? Sort of, maybe, maybe not, I don't know. Alright, so at this point we can go ahead and pop our horizontal stab out. I'll set that aside because when I come back we're going to finish up the front of the airplane real quick. Attempt to. Again, try and do this with the Duco Signet. Also cement, there we go, that's the correct term. And there we go. Alright, and we'll be back in a minute. Okay, so you've got your stab here. We finished up. Excuse me, finished out the fuselage. Sand the stab really as thin as you dare, because you want to eliminate excess weight on the back of the airplane. And beware of, I almost sanded or planed all the way through my stab there. So nice and thin. We'll come back and we'll remove a little more. That's got us a nice lightweight little stab. And now we'll do the vertical tail. So pop this little strip out of here. And we'll sand that part. Remove the burr on the bottom. And sand off the leading edge a little bit here. And then go over to your scrap piece of foam and pop out a little rudder tab outline. And there's a piece at the front. You just sand off the little burr that's right there. And now you're going to glue these together like so. And again, you have to use a foam safe glue. And there you go. We'll set that down to dry, because it's going to take a few minutes. So now, when I come back in here, we'll save the little hand grip here for later. That is optional depending on how you're going to fly this airplane. At this point, we'll take our wing and we're going to mount it onto the pylon underneath. And you're going to line up the leading edge with the front of the pylon. So hit that with some CA. If you remember, we sanded a flat in the bottom of the wing at the dihedral join. And so we're going to line this up, attempt to line it up. Because we want it lined up front and back. Like so. And now it's attached. So at this point, we can set this down. We can come in and we can attach our horizontal stab. We'll just use a light tacking down of CA on that. Mount the stab in here, and you'll want to sight down the wing to see that the stab is aligned correctly. And now we'll come in here. Remember, we made our rudder here, rudder vertical stab assembly. And we'll hit that with some CA, being careful not to get any on the foam at all. We'll mount that up here in front of the in front of our stab, like so. Now I am going to set mine up with the little catapult grip, because I do plan on flying mine from a catapult a little bit. So, flip this guy over and you'll glue it right there, like so. Oh, there's still some wet glue that didn't want to come off. And try not to use too much glue, just enough to hold it on. And you're already going to put it under a little bit of tension, but is trying to bend the wrong way. Bend over to the right, because I'm going to fly this airplane so it circles to the right. There we go. When that is finished, now we'll check our CG. Should balance back over the flaps a little bit. And it does. So you can see my fingers kind of shining through. Use some clay to move the CG fore and aft. But now we're about ready to do some test gliding. Okay, so you want to cut this piece of rubber strand to about 6 inches long, like so. And for low ceiling flying, this should give you enough of a catapult to get fairly good performance. Because you're not trying to launch the airplane that high. And that's assuming you are going to catapult launch it. So that like that. And I won't be able to show this entirely on video. But you'll grip it by the grip back here and pull back and launch. And it does not take a whole lot of tension to get up to a Category 1 ceiling. So that's that. Okay, so I just weighed mine and it's 8.2 grams, which is a decent weight. Ouch. It needs a little bit of up trim, like a lot of it. So we're going to bend this up. We'll try again. Okay, so what you saw was a little bit of the beginning of the trimming and whatnot. That was before we used the correct flat material, which is what's now being used. You'll notice, so now I don't have a whole lot of up trim in my stab, just with the flaps deflected down about that angle. That gives you, typically will give you about enough up elevator. The airplane is still balanced. Actually, there we go. So your CG is right here at the trailing edge of those front wing halves. And that gives you a real nice flight pattern. Also, if you'll look, if I look straight down, you can see over here on the right wing, you can see the top surface of that, you can see the bottom surface of that wing, and if you look way back there, you can see the rudder is deflected to compensate. So what that does is that allows this airplane, as you're flying it, the rudder kicks it in, but it skids around instead of kicking it down like that. Oh, flaps are rubbing. Anyway, so what you want to look for is this flight pattern. Okay, not quite that flight pattern. This airplane has had things sitting on top of it, so it may have changed its flight trim a little. So I'm going to reduce some of that twist on the right wing. And mind you, this is if you're right-handed. Alright, so let's see if we're... There you go, like that. And so that gives you a fairly good flight pattern. So what you want to look for is to not drop the airplane like me. So what you want to look for is I'm going to tilt the airplane over about like that. You can see that. So I'm going to launch it nose down. And yes, that did happen on video. Genius.
Ouch.
You don't have to agree. Okay, so anyway, but the bottom line is what you saw was the airplane, I launched it down and it started peeling off and it was going to plop into the glide. And that's what you want to look for. We have several videos on doing that. Probably we'll be doing more in the future because these are a little challenging to trim, but they do fly quite well once you get them, get everything right. And I bungled everything up on there. Anyway, questions, comments, comment section below. and we'll see you at the gym or something like that. See ya.